Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to UroNurse. We come to you every Saturday at 9 a.m. Central Time. And I mean every Saturday. As you probably can see from my backdrop, I'm not at home in my cozy studio. I'm on the road. I'm going to be doing remotes for the next couple episodes because we're visiting in Florida. If you're watching us live, great. Glad to have you on board. We have all these areas you can watch us from live. If this is your first time visiting the show, be sure to check out our website at uronurse.com, the best place to go to learn more about the show. And boy, do we have shows, 124 episodes. This is episode 125. I kind of like that, the 25 with the Christmas thing. A lot of you like to listen to us in your car. You got that commute. You want to have a good thing to do while you're commuting. Go to the UroNurse Plus area on our website and just find what your favorite audio podcasting company is. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube Music, all of those work. So just go ahead and check us out. This week, we're going to have our Christmas special. We've done this for the last 2 years. It's hard to believe this is our third season doing this. But anyway, we go and scour the internet to find out all the new little urology devices and instruments and things out there that are coming or are already out. So we're going to have a lot of fun with that. But first,
Dr. Jeff Albaugh, a renowned advanced practice urology clinical nurse specialist, researcher, and author, is thrilled to announce the launch of his new podcast, Dr. Jeff Talks About Sex and Intimacy. This engaging and informative podcast aims to address topics surrounding sexual health, relationships, and intimacy with sensitivity and expertise. The first episode is set to premiere on January 7th at 7 p.m. Central Time, offering listeners valuable insights and open conversations about these important aspects of life.
All right, I'm glad to bring in Dr. Jeffrey Albaugh, who's going to be our host of a latest podcast coming out, our number 4 for me. But Jeff, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Vic. I'm super excited to be here and talk about the new show.
Yeah. So it's going to be starting on the 7th of January. We're going to do this one at night, 7 p.m. Most of my shows have been in the morning, but I think this is a nicer change to do something in the evening time.
Definitely. Well, I just thank you so much, Vic, especially for all the things you do to put education out there. UroNurse, UroPatient, it's such a cool thing. And I'm so excited to partner with you on now Dr. Jeff Talks About Sex and Intimacy. I just think it's such a big deal. I mean, here's the thing. We live in a world where sex and love are everywhere. They're pervasive in the media and advertising and culture. I mean, after all, sex sells, right? So, but when it comes to struggling with sexual or intimacy issues, the conversation goes silent. Often the healthcare people aren't talking about it so much because there's so much going on in that visit usually. Often the patients are feeling uncomfortable bringing it up. It can feel isolating and difficult at times to find reliable fact-based information. So I think the show just offers that chance to get that information. And I look at it and I think, well, who doesn't want more love and connection in their life? And that's what we'll be talking about a lot on the show.
So maybe we should go into a little bit on the format of the show. We're looking at doing a presentation for about a half hour and taking some questions from the audience for our live audience, correct?
That's right. And, this is really for anybody who wants to learn more about sex and intimacy. And we thought if we can try to keep it to 30 minutes, that would give that attention span where people could find a little bit of information that's really helpful. They can come back the next week to find out more. It's going to happen every Tuesday at 7 o'clock. We're going to bring in experts, awesome people. I'm super excited about the people we already lined up and can't wait to line up even more people. But these are the people that I've had the pleasure of learning from too over the years. And we're just going to really provide those answers so people know more about this topic that's always talked about, but often when you have a real question or a real concern, it's hard to find the information you need. So I think the show will provide that.
Why don't you give us a little background into your background, a little information about where you came from and how you got involved in sex education?
Cool. Well, it's so interesting. I started my whole career in nursing at Northwestern Memorial and the Acute Spine Injury Center. And all those patients had problems with bowel, bladder, and sexual issues. So I worked there for about 6 years. It had an ICU and a step-down unit. And definitely there were a lot of urology concerns. And eventually urology found me and said, you seem to be very interested and comfortable talking about these things. And that's kind of how I got into urology and dealing with sexual dysfunction, bladder dysfunction, all those different things. So I did urodynamics, where we did bladder testing and we did bladder training, and then sexual dysfunction as well. Eventually, believe it or not, after quite a few years, more and more the need was to work with men and women with sexual dysfunction. And so eventually that became the focus of my work, working with men and women with sexual dysfunction in the urology department. I still did a little bit of bladder training and bladder work, especially with men with prostate cancer. So my focus became sexual dysfunction, prostate cancer, and incontinence in men with prostate cancer. So I became an advanced practice nurse because the providers there were like, if you go back to school, you could just take over your clinic and really care for the patients, write the prescriptions, do everything. So I went back, became a board certified urology clinical nurse specialist. I also eventually went on to get my PhD in sexual health research, and I became a certified sexuality counselor as well, and I started being trained in couple therapy too. Because what happens is when you have sexual issues, so we fix the problems, we work on the different things. Now we've resolved the vaginal dryness, or we've worked on some things to help with the erectile dysfunction, but the couple's not talking. And so they're really not communicating with each other and not getting along. So they're still not having sex. And so that's how I got into more of the counseling and things like that as well. So I have met wonderful people looking at all those different aspects of sexual dysfunction, the physical side, the emotional side, the spiritual side, the relationship side. And so that's really somewhat of my background. I worked at Northwestern, I worked at North Shore, and I currently work at the Jesse Brown VA with the veterans, working with men and women with sexual dysfunction, some sexual trauma, anything to do with sex. That's what we're talking about in my office all day, trying to help people with those issues.
Yeah, that's great. Live audience, if you have any questions for Dr. Jeff, be sure to just throw those into the comments. We'll be glad to have Jeff answer those while he's here. So I think it's fantastic. You know, when we were kind of chatting about this whole idea, this would be a podcast that probably has a great need. Could be something that really takes off. I hope it's going to take off really well, because, you know, there's a lot of misinformation out there. A lot of, you know, sometimes we assume because we're in the field that everybody knows, you know, how we function. But I've had many guys go, you know, especially because I see a lot of prostate cancer. They go, what does the prostate gland even do? They don't even know, you know, and then you think, gosh, how could you not know that? Right. It's basic, but as we find out.
I think you're so right. And you think, well, like, what was really what was your experience with learning about sex and intimacy? I remember in 5th grade, I don't know about you, but we had sex education, which I didn't understand it in 5th grade. And so I didn't even have good questions to ask, because I'm like, what are these people talking about? So, and I think some people didn't even have that. So it's a wonderful thing to have questions answered and really get fact-based information. Like you said, there's a lot of myths. People are always astounded when they find out that 1 in 5 men in their lifetime have erectile dysfunction. And, you know, even my men in their 70s are like, I can't believe I have this. Why do I have this? No. And I'm like, well, by the time you're 70, 70% of your friends in your age group have it. And like you said, just the basics of, how does an erection work? I'm very familiar with my penis, but I have no clue how it even works. And those are the kinds of things we're going to talk about, all that kind of information. So I think you've hit the nail on the head. Lots of myths, lots of misinformation, but we're going to talk about all of it. Every week, every month, when I run my prostate cancer group at Gilda's Club, questions come up about sex and intimacy. Everywhere I go to speak, people are like, we don't have this information. So we thought this would create something where people can come. They don't even have to put their video face up there when they attend the meetings. They can ask questions. They can do it confidentially, whatever way they want. It will be an enduring product like your other amazing education products, Vic. So people can go back and watch it, learn about the vet. For example, I was just talking to you about a session on the tips and tricks for the vacuum pump. Oh, wow. How do I do that? Let me go back and watch Kathy and Jeff talk about that,
Yeah, it's going to be great. And I like the fact that we're going to be bringing in other experts because, we've done this a lot, but it's never, we're not the only ones. And trying to get a different perspective is going to be helpful. And it's not going to be just for healthcare workers. This is going to be going out for people that are in need of healthcare. So kind of educate them. So I think it's going to do a great service. Just to let you know, we are going to have this show on X. We're going to have it on Facebook. We're going to have it on YouTube and LinkedIn. So it'll all simulcast to all of those. So you can find us anywhere. Be sure to check out Dr. Jeff sextalk.com to register for the episodes. And that's going to be the place to go.
And if you as nurses have anyone who needs this information, this is who it's geared towards. Just like UroNurse is, it's geared towards those patients and those people, anybody, but it's geared towards anybody who wants to learn about sex and intimacy. So please direct your patients to it. But we have amazing guests. To me, my friend Dr. Susan Kellogg-Spass, who is has a PhD in sexology. Nobody knows more about female sexual health than she does, and she's going to come talk about that. Dr. Barry McCarthy and possibly his wife, Emily, I'm not sure yet, but they wrote a book on desire. They're going to come talk about desire. It's going to be an incredible chance to learn really valuable, practical information on sex, love, relationships, intimacy. I'm super excited if you can't tell. And I'm so grateful to Vic because he has helped me so much. And I think your mission to get this education out there for both nurses and UroNurse and mine, which is really geared towards everybody, it's a huge deal. So I'm super excited about it. I hope your listeners are too. And I hope
we have a jam-packed show, the first show. That's what I'm hoping for. But we'll build up an audience over time too, because as people start to discover us, that's when things really go crazy. But hey, Jeff, it's been great talking to you. You're welcome to stick around if you want to stick around. I didn't see any questions coming in. People haven't gotten their coffee going yet, I guess. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get into our show here today. And here we go with some of the latest equipment and procedures in urology. So as I said, every year I go through at this time of the year, go through and see what's new and exciting. And here's a few of those things. So I did find this. Olympus launched a new 4K camera head for urologic endoscopy. So I think almost everybody uses cameras now in their practice, and not too many that put their eyeball up against the scopes these days. But the cameras are getting to be crazy good. And Olympus is one of the big ones in this industry. And this camera I did find out, it does 4K imaging, does the narrow band as well as blue light. For those of you that aren't familiar, these are ways of be able to detect bladder cancers that sometimes you can't see with just the naked eye. So cool invention. I think it's going to be interesting to see. I've been involved in urology for 40 years. And one of the things I've noticed is the improvement over time with the flexible cystoscopes and these now with the lenses. I mean, it's incredible how good the vision is. Now, here's another one I thought was pretty cool. This is the UroActive implant. It's by a company called UroMems. And this is a device for incontinence, and it's a cuff that is put around the bladder neck, but it's able to figure out how active you are as to how much pressure it needs to control it. So if you're just resting and not doing much, then you don't need to have a lot of constriction to control incontinence. As you start to get more and more active, then of course those become more and more necessary. And we do have, let's see here. Yeah, Santa brought us a nice video on that. So that's pretty cool. Now, those of us that have been involved in urology know that there's been neuromodulation systems for overactive bladders that are firing off on their own all the time. And Medtronic was a big founder in this area. There's a newer guy in town called Axonics who has a sacral nerve modulation system. One of the problems with all of these systems has been batteries. You know, they work off of batteries like a pacemaker, and the batteries eventually need to be replaced, which is a surgical procedure. But now Axonics has actually come up with a device that has a rechargeable battery. So we're going to go ahead and, hey, Santa, you got another video for us? Yep.
This video will show you a quick tutorial on how to use your new easy-to-use Axonics charging system. To charge, first remove your charger from its dock. The dock is used to store your charger and to recharge its battery. The charger light indicates how much life is in the charger's battery. If the green light is on, it's ready to fully charge your stimulator. If you see a solid orange light, the charger will only partially charge your stimulator. You have two options for holding the charger in place during charging. A thin, flexible carrier can hold the charger in place using skin-friendly, removable adhesive. Or a soft, stretchy belt can be worn around your waist to hold the charger in place. To use the carrier, start by snapping the bottom of the charger into the open center of the carrier. To use the belt, snap the bottom of the charger into the green plastic ring. Once the charger is snapped into the belt, you'll need to align it with your stimulator. Hold the charger against your skin on top of where the stimulator was placed, and listen for a long beep. With the charger placed over the stimulator, you can sit back and relax until charging is finished. However, if you hear 3 tones and feel the charger vibrate, charging has stopped before the stimulator has fully charged. This typically happens because the charger has moved away from the stimulator. Place the charger in the proper location to continue the process. You'll hear the same tone as before when charging resumes. When you hear this sound, charging is complete. Once charging is complete, remove the charger and unsnap it from the carrier or belt. Place the charger on the dock so it's ready the next time you want to charge. If you used the disposable carrier, you can throw it away. The belt can be stored and reused. It's a good habit to check your remote control after charging to make sure your stimulation is on and at the desired level. You'll need to periodically charge your stimulator for about an hour. If you're unsure if your stimulator needs charging, you can always check the lights on your remote control. Charging more frequently can reduce the time it takes to charge. If you have any other questions about charging your stimulator, contact your healthcare provider or refer to the manuals included with your device.
So that's pretty cool, especially patients that need to use higher levels of electronic discharge that can go through the battery quicker. That's going to really be a game changer. Now, everybody talks about AI. It's the big, buzzword going around. Well, it's going everywhere. So now one of the biggest, more popular episodes that I've had on UroNurse have been prostate surgeries. We're all getting older. We all start to get that problem where we need to have something done about the prostate. And one of these is the aquablation surgery. And now more than ever, it's being done by a surgeon assisted by a computer AI generated robot. Yay, Santa, you got a video? we had a talk on aquablation, so it'll be interesting to see how that robot's going to come into it. And again, robots are being used everywhere, and of course, no place more so than in surgery. And I have a company that is now using intelligent surgical powered robots to assist with robotic surgery. Yes, Santa, we got that video.
Ascensus Surgical is a group of trailblazers that set out to tackle some of the shortcomings of existing technology in surgery.
Every individual I work with is dynamic and is an expert in what he or she does, but knows so well how to work well with others. And I think that's what makes us so special as an entire collaborative team across the globe.
Surgery is a highly stressful environment. Hundreds of decisions need to be made on a per case basis, hundreds of surgical maneuvers, and quite frankly, surgeons don't have access to technologies that are readily available in other industries.
For Ascensus, the voice of the customer is very important. For this, we are always in contact with our users and users that are not only the surgeon, but also the clinical staff that works in the OR to help the surgeon to be comfortable during the procedure, to feel less fatigue, and thanks to this, be more precise during the procedure.
So Ascensus was started really with the idea that there's always going to be room for innovation in medical devices. There's always going to be complication rates that are unacceptably high, and we think that there's lots of room left in the robotics market, and there's an enormous space in the digital market for concepts that could not have been brought to market 5 years ago or 10 years ago. They've needed the advancements in machine learning and computer vision. We can bring those together meaningfully in a way that really suits the surgeon and ultimately, of course, suits the patient.
So I think that the future of surgery will be robotic surgeries, will leverage the information that the robot can provide them. That will decrease the amount of time that needed to be spent for each surgery, while increasing the results we are getting and limiting the amount of complications that we have today.
By digitizing the interface between the surgeon and the patient, we're able to reduce variability between one procedure and the next. And most importantly, the surgeon is working in a comfortable position, and the patient is able to recover faster from the procedure because the incisions are small.
We are changing the operating room to improve outcomes for surgeons, to improve outcomes for patients through AI in ways that we can't even envision yet as a society. And it's exciting to be such a part of that future.
Of course, the video was sped up a little bit at the end there, just to make it more interesting. But yeah, you know, if those of you that are working in robotics, kind of used to the Da Vinci, the original machine, you're kind of leaning forward in it to work in it. I was lucky enough early in my career when they were first introducing this to get to play at the AUA with one of the Da Vinci's and tying sutures and stuff like that. But that one looks really comfortable. I mean, the guy's almost like he's playing a video game, kind of laid back in a chair. So things are going to be changing. Now, this one I found interesting because I do a lot of prostate ultrasonography too. And one of the things that we do when we're doing prostate biopsies, we always measure the size of the prostate so that we can determine a prostate density number. And it's done very manually. You just kind of take two pictures of the prostate, one in the transverse view, and then you flip it to the sagittal view. So it's kind of like, I always tell patients, like, looking at a loaf of bread, the normal way you cut it is transverse slices. And then when you flip the bread and cut it the wrong way, that would be the sagittal. And you need to get length, width, and height. So you need 3 dimensions. Now there's an AI-driven technology that's going to be able to find those edges. I always thought when I was doing these manually, kind of adjusting those little X's that it puts around the prostate to measure it, that was really a waste of time. AI should be able to figure that out probably before there was even AI. But this is something that's coming, and I think it's going to be something pretty neat where you can just have it automatically figure out your density for you. Now, here's another one that came out that's a electromechanical activated cuff for bladder control. Again, this is another incontinence measure device, similar to one that I showed but this one doesn't do the management based on how much activity you have. But hey, if you've got overactive bladder or incontinence, here's a way to control it.
Stress urinary incontinence is a disabling condition that results in uncontrolled urinary leakage during efforts such as coughing or sport. Normally, the urine is retained by the sphincter that may be inefficient in women suffering from this pathology. Artis is an artificial urinary sphincter which aims to take over for the natural sphincter. After urethral dissection, the soft silicone cuff is placed around the urinary canal, specifically at bladder neck level, and locked. Once adapted to the urethra, the cuff is connected to the actuator, which is remotely controlled. By electromechanical action, the actuator will drive the closing and opening of the cuff. The cuff will be adjusted according to the severity of incontinence of each woman. For voiding, simply press the main button of the remote control. In order to mimic natural physiology, Artis has been designed to allow permanent adaptation to the patient's lifestyle. At each patient follow-up, cuff closing may be adjusted to fit the potential evolution of the disease and women's lifestyle.
So that's pretty cool. We've had artificial sphincters that work by a balloon that you kind of have to put a little pump into the labia, and then you can inflate that to close it, and then it has a button to release it. But you don't have the fine adjustments that you could do that this one's going to offer. So I think it's got some potential advantages that it's going to have. Next one here is prostate disease management. Those of us that are in prostate cancer work, we know that the traditional way of doing a prostate biopsy has been ultrasound guided. That's now moved on to MRI with some fusion biopsies. The next step, what's really coming in to become more popular, is getting out of the rectum completely and going into transperineal biopsies. Of course, there's some limitations to transperineal biopsies too. And now we got AI that's going to help, and the Mona Lisa surgical robot is going to tell us a little bit. Mona Lisa, tell us a little bit about how this one works. Well, that's pretty cool. I think anything that can be designed to help get better, more accurate prostate biopsies, I'm all for it, since who knows, someday I may end up having to have a prostate biopsy. Hopefully not, but it's good to know that this technology exists. This is one I saw recently at the SUNA conference, a company called Vivali, who is bringing in this wearable ankle stimulator. We've been seeing a lot of this tibial nerve stimulation where you had to put a little needle into the ankle area to stimulate electronically to decrease overactive bladder. Here's one that does it without any needles. So let's see. Yep, Santa's got a video for that too. Now, you know, in 2025, I'll be reaching out to all of these companies to try to see if I can get them on UroNurse to talk about these devices. So even though these are just little glimpses into what's going on and what's coming up, I think it's going to be great to be able to have an episode on every one of those. Now, here's another problem that some patients experience, and that they have, for different reasons, they can't sense that their bladder is getting full. And here's Northwestern University researchers have developed a new soft, flexible, battery-free implant that attaches to the bladder wall and can sense feeling. It's wirelessly simultaneously transmits data to a smartphone app so that users can monitor their bladder fullness in real time. So while this device is unnecessary for the average person, it could be a game changer for people with paralysis, spina bifida, bladder cancer, end-stage bladder disease, where the bladder function is often compromised and bladder reconstruction surgery may be required. The sensor also can enable clinicians to monitor their patients remotely and continuously, so to make more informed, faster treatment decisions. And I don't have a video on that one. Another thing that came up, I saw, it's not exactly urology related, but I thought this is really something I'm crazy interested in. And that's the ability to monitor your blood sugar without that traditional stick in the finger. And this is a device. Yep, Santa, you got a video.
Meet the revolutionary non-invasive blood glucose monitoring meter, transforming the process of blood glucose monitoring. There's no need for painful needle pricks with our non-invasive meter. Instead, light simply penetrates your skin, reaching blood glucose. Precise data is then analyzed with our advanced chip processor. Unlock and elevate your health with personalized data and digital insights. Discover the future with wearable non-invasive glucose meters. Enjoy real-time 24/7 monitoring, anywhere, anytime. Healthcare Vision, reshaping the future of blood glucose monitoring.
I can't wait to see that come out on Apple Watch. I know it's definitely in the works, because they say this is going to be a game changer for people, especially diet control and stuff, knowing how it affects your blood sugar while you're eating, different foods that you eat. And some of this can really make a big difference in metabolic health. And the last thing I'm going to talk about is this thing called the Vivu Wellness Test. I've often had patients come in and say, especially people that suffer from frequent urinary tract infection, is there any way I can check my urine at home? And we'll say, yeah, there's these test strips you can get that check for nitrate and leukocytes. And they're somewhat reliable, at least as a good screening exam. So I saw this one, I thought it's worth mentioning. It's kind of a neat idea, I think, where that you take a test strip, you check your urine, but you use your phone to read the strip, because sometimes patients have trouble reading those strips. And any of us that have been doing urinalysis long enough know if you aren't using the machine, you're comparing it to the side of a bottle to figure out whether it's positive or not. Yeah, subtle color differences, especially as your eyes get older, can get harder to check. So this is a device that would eliminate that by taking the guesswork out of it for you. So that's my show for today. What do you think, Jeff? I think you're muted right now. Yep, you're still on.
Yeah,
mute.
awesome. Yeah, I think a lot of great products, definitely. And hold on, let me center myself. I got a little offside, but yeah, I think those are some great products. I was very impressed with the tibial stimulator and the Olympus scope. All the different things you talked about, I think, are going to be really helpful things for people to learn about. Pretty cool stuff.
Yeah. I always have a ball looking at all these different things, going through the internet and kind of searching out and see what's new and exciting. Anybody at home have any comments to say, or at least tell us where you're at, what you're doing for Christmas? Anything would be fine. I do see there's some viewers out there. But it's just it's neat to see what's the future is going to hold. And as I said, 2025, I'll be making a lot of contacts with all these companies to try to get more information and have them on the shows. It's when I started this whole thing 2.5 years ago, I was like, how could I ever come up with 52 episodes a year? It seems like it's impossible thing to do. And then suddenly you find out, wow, there was so much out there I didn't even know existed. I think we're going to find it out in your show too.
I agree. And I think there's so many cool products. It never fails. Every time I go to the SUNA conference every year, even though I've been since early 1990s, many years, for decades, there's always something cool and new. And honestly, that tibial stimulator was one that I was very impressed with, because I'm like, wow, the first wearable stimulator, and the data looked really good. It was so interesting. And it's funny because it applied to someone in my family that I was really trying to help too. And then, there's so many different products, and you've got it's really cool. You can come up, talk to the different vendors, but I think it'd be great if you provide, more information on some of those really cool new things, because there's always something. And as nurses, we're always trying to understand and learn more about each of those products. It's great. Yeah. It's a great idea.
So we do have a comment from Charlene. Impressive and thank you. Charlene Valmer said, our US20 prostate is active down here in Springfield, Illinois, Jeff. So
yay. So Charlene has done a lot of great things down there. She's been very involved with the SUNA chapter there, and with educating urology nurses down in that area of Springfield, Illinois, but also she runs that great prostate cancer group like I do in Chicago, and we really appreciate that. It's an awesome thing.
And I think that's a group that's going to be great for your show.
For sure, Charlene, definitely. And thank you for that work you do. We just had our prostate cancer meeting on Thursday this week, and we had our holiday celebration. And I always walk away from that meeting filled with just feeling really good about the conversations. The men are inspiring me. It's a great thing. It's a long day at work, but I'm always happy when I finish it out with them on the third Thursday of the month. And I'm sure you feel the same. It's pretty cool work working with those prostate cancer survivors.
Yeah. It is. It's, one of the things I think we all know that are in this business is it really is all about patient care. And you can't find another way to get such a great feeling when you help somebody else out. And you just think it's, someday you might be going through it and you'd like to have that compassionate person there for you. So being that compassionate person is important.
That's what I think is so great too about UroNurse and this new podcast we're talking about, because it's like, I think it's just to get really good information is so valuable, and to empower people with the information they need to make their own informed choices. It's cool stuff. So,
and Charlene says, yes, our support group is awesome, and credit to Tia Raps SUNA also. So lots of cogs in that wheel that keeps all this stuff spinning. But yeah, as I found out with UroNurse, there's so many small companies out there that have great devices but small sales teams. You never see them in your office. The ones that come to the office are all the big companies, and they're out there promoting their products because they got a sales force. So SUNA's been able to get those little niche products, or UroNurse gets those little niche products together. And I kind of discovered that, like you said, at SUNA meetings, where some of these smaller companies, at least they can get into a SUNA meeting to advertise or promote their products. So now we're doing that on a weekly basis with UroNurse. And like I said, I'm anxious to see what we find out new about sex on your show every week. So.
Yeah, I think it's kind of cool too to have an evening show, a little bit different, because but I think it fits well with the topic and everything else. And for people who are working or not working, to join us at 7:00 on Tuesdays. So I think it'll be good. But Vic, man, thanks for all the stuff you do. This UroNurse, I can't believe this is your third holiday season. It's crazy, and all the episodes you've done, and every week you've made it happen, and it's cool. And you travel quite a bit, which you should at this point in your life. So kudos to you for both UroNurse, for UroPatient, and I'm super, super excited about Dr. Jeff Talks About Sex and Intimacy. Can't wait.
Yeah, I can't wait either. And hey, here's a promo for next week's show.
This year, UroNurse.com celebrated remarkable achievements and milestones, solidifying its place as a leading voice in urologic nursing. Highlights include Vic Sinise receiving the prestigious SUNA President's Trophy for contributions to urologic nursing, and the 2025 launch of a new podcast, Dr. Jeff Talks About Sex and Intimacy, hosted by Dr. Jeffrey Albaugh. UroNurse conducted groundbreaking research on voiding trials, and continued to engage its community with educational series like Prostate Cancer Awareness Month. The platform expanded its reach with multiple podcast ventures. As the year closes, UroNurse reflects on its journey of growth, education, and advocacy in the urology field. Join us next Saturday at 9 a.m. Central Time to learn more at uronurse.com.
Yeah, next Saturday, join us again. We're going to have a great episode. That's our look back episode at what's happened in the past year in 2024. And it's kind of neat because most of the companies that we're on, like YouTube and Spotify, they all send me these end of the year video little excerpts about what we've accomplished that year. And it sometimes is amazing to me what we've able to accomplish and how the program has grown over the years. And so we're going to share that with you next week. And I'll also be sharing some ideas for what we're going to do in 2025. And of course, one of those is our 4th podcast coming up with Dr. Jeff. So Jeff, have a great Christmas. And we'll see everybody else out there. Have a great Christmas. We'll see everybody next week.